Alrighty, daily trading recap for this Tuesday, the 22nd of October, 2021. Another little red day for me off of two trades, but they both did exactly what I thought they were going to do within the time frame that I would have been trading them, but just stopped myself out a little bit too soon on both of them, but we'll get into the breakdowns on those in a few minutes here. Let's go over some housekeeping first off. Let's just market internals for dollar volume. NASDAQ still putting in higher dollar volume than the NYSE at 288 billion dollar volume as of right now, 33 minutes after the close. NYSE $263 billion volume, and OTC's $2.4 billion volume. Interesting factors to keep. I just like to keep my mind fresh on those, keep repeating those, see if any patterns start to come out in regards to that. Spy another little green morning session here. I think we're closing red from where we opened, which will be an interesting factor going into how I want to continue to play so much this data that I've been tracking for such a long time, since the start of the year, on the percentage of how this trend will continue. Especially, I mean, if you're just buying green on the SPY, you're pretty much going to make money at a very consistent rate too. So I got to start playing that data that I do have of the very probable trade that could come of that. And just depending on what modality I want to use, of sometimes the options are not really the best. So maybe looking into opening a futures account or different aspects like that too. But I think I definitely got to start hitting that hard for the huge percentage that provides in that regard. Mentioned the trades. Overnight holds could be looking a little bit better here, and that's the kind of thesis I'm looking into. A few more tickers that I've got on watches here. PROG was an insane overnighter in the pre-market here today, especially. Was looking very great. I think did I trade this one yesterday? Yeah, I traded this one small size yesterday, looking for sharper move during market hours, but just didn't really happen. But it was holding very well, this kind of intraday pattern, if we take away the scaling that it happened today. Yeah, holding very nice, continually putting in basing little ranges and finding consolidation around 2.9 area here. Pre-market holds nicely in that yesterday, into nice market hours as of yesterday. Huge, crazy spike in this pre-market. So that was just the one that I wanted to reference. And then PBTS was another one that I was watching to follow up as well too. After hours of yesterday was decent, and of course not the same as what Prog did this morning, but kind of sell-off-ish pre-market and then bleeding again into the market hours here. So just keeping that in mind on Prog, and maybe that's just a one case of that overnight type of mover, but especially going to try to see if that is also validated in the movers that I have on my watch list here going into tomorrow. I'll mention those at the end of the video here. Both of my trades that I had today were kind of sketchy, not really trades that I would be taking in a slower market, maybe in a summer market, even 2-3 weeks ago. I was in the moment as I'm taking the trade and justifying what the pattern is that I'm seeing. I totally was present to say, man, this is, too high up, or this is not a very solid trading plan. Like, it's the prime opportunity for what the move could be. But also, we're in a different market. It has shifted since DWAC, since more retail dollar volume has come into the market once again too. So the fact that now both of these trades ended up working out with doing exactly what I thought they were going to do, even though I did kind of think they were a little bit too far up, or too, just not the most solid foundation-based trades. It does go kind of to show that, hey, there is some room for leniency of when and where you get your entry. Not necessarily the exact entry and exits, but the little more leniency on saying, oh, it's the thesis of, oh, it's a little bit too high up for me to take an entry here, or, oh, it's a little bit too overextended, it's not enough volume, sometimes can be a little bit eliminated a bit more and more as we get in a hotter, crazy market, I feel. And that's kind of a famous last words, maybe a risky statement on that, of basing a trade solely in that regard, of just kind of Hail Marying a toss in there of, oh, volume will come in. That can kind of save the day at some points. But in these types of markets, in the hotter, more launchy markets, it certainly can happen. So keeping that in mind with all these today too. Mental rating that I gave myself today was a B rating. It's hard to take red losses in all of these, or just losses in general, of course. But the thesis that I have to come away with today too is these were two successful trades. In my preparation for today, did not a lot of big movers on the scanner, but just nothing really that I was hard focused on. And I had to take that moment to say, yeah, I'm really not watching anything hard at the market open. Of course, I had the tickers to be watching on the chart, and not necessarily I had any trading thesis on them, but kept that mental space free to say, if there's a trade available, present yourself, and I'm open and ready to be on it. So gave myself a B because I wasn't the most necessarily prepared of, I really want to be. This kind of picture frame ideal that I put in myself is I want to be that Kyle Williams, the Jack Kellogg, the Jack number 2, take your pick of all these different traders. The other millionaire guy, Roy Devers or something, in the Tim Sykes chat, that just absolutely nailing these plays, just making, of course, they're throwing huge position size at these trades, but very easy, predictable, nice percentage moves trades on these big movers, especially to the short side. I think most of them are biased that way. I say I want to be that style of trader or be able to capitalize on these big movers like that too, but again, I'm kind of still sitting in the sidelines, and I do feel like gravitating more away from those style of trades, the big, crazy, the AMCs, GMCs, GMEs, the DWACs, because I just don't feel that I can capitalize on those at the present moment. And I don't like the preparation that I do right here, right now. Yeah, it's great. You can nail it for that one trade today, but especially as I'm under a PDT account, I have a super small account. Having a winner on one of those with the account size that I have, it's awesome, but it doesn't make me as a trader. I need to define the consistency and the profitability in the repeatable pattern. And it's fun and awesome to say, oh, sweet, I got an awesome 50% move on this trade. But that doesn't set me up. That doesn't make me, right? That's just like a day. That's just a day of what a normal, I look at as a 9-to-5 job, maybe, if you want to consider that, for what small account size I'm trading, small position size that I'm trading. And so it's not like, even though the opportunity is on those ones, and also factoring as well, I'm getting too elaborate here with this type of mentality, but just talking through what I'm thinking of, I know I want to be doing that with a bigger position size in the future when I have that account size to be able to trade that way, those same guys, the same way that those guys are doing right now, but also understanding how much can I look to them as inspiration for where I'm at as of right now, because they were totally trading different from where they were now compared to relatively where I'm at in my trading career to potentially where I could be in my trading career. And I know that's going to be 100% true. I'm going to be trading totally differently in 2 years than I am trading right now. So just all those different factors, but that's trading. That's why I love it. It's just a constant, ever-changing adaptation and environment of it. It's certainly pretty awesome. That's a long-winded intro, I think. Yeah, let's go ahead and get on to the trades themselves. Talking about AIAD, OTC ticker. Very nice move as of yesterday, going pretty parabolic. Chris was actually looking for panic dip buy kind of right out of the gate on this one as a play too, which I also factored in of, hey, that's a pretty decent percentage move from yesterday. Shows that had a one and done in August here, one spike day, and then backside being put in after that one nice day. So we kind of have a multi-day-ish move here. We get a nice gap up out of the gate. So in the mind of, hey, are we looking for an acceleration, kind of a third day continuation from there? But then, mentioning from the introduction, hey, it's keep safe. It's not like this is going to be a very probable trade, because it is technically kind of already so far up, and it gets less probable that it goes the same amount of percentage points after it's already done that time and time again too. So just keep that factor in mind. So out of the gate, just like everything else, just really wasn't looking hard at it, especially as it was dumping a little bit after this gap up. But it found a little bit of consolidation at bottom here around 40, climbed back to VWAP, put in a nice little green candle back to the upside. 45 here, 4 cents, 4.5 cents. Became a very key level. Huge seller from CSTI that started just smacking all the bids, slamming that opportunity back down. We got the reverse red candle that pulls back a little bit, but still maintains above VWAP. Another attempt to slap that 45. So still keeping it on the side burners as I'm watching this chart, but watching it. This was probably my main focus for the whole day, even though everything else was moving kind of nicely. I had that thought as well too of, I know other things are moving, and I usually would be tempted to kind of just keep my eyes wandering, looking over everything, but then kind of correcting myself, say, hey, put the blinders on for some reason, just look at this one for today. Keep your focus on this one, learn as much as you can out of this one ticker. So then we actually get the push through to 45. So I'm saying, shoot, I think strength could be there. Monaco actually was in this one at 44, knowing that it had to break 45 for this to be a probable trade. I don't know which minute candle he was getting in at, but obviously that was a less probable trade in my mind, and I certainly could have got in at that point for how it was holding above VWAP. But yeah, in my head still, I was factoring in, okay, it is up quite a bit. Will it have the morning spike continuation? Because that's what I'm looking for, is that just very nice, easy morning spike to sell into, not looking to hold this thing longer than the morning session, longer than intraday. That was just the trade that I was looking for, maybe even to 50. And as I'll break down later in the trade here, of course, too, I would have definitely been out at that 50 mark. There was plenty of time to sell into that, and perfect whole round number to get out at. That would have been very nice, and perfect 10% trade from where my 4.6 entry was there. So after we get that 4.5 break to the upside, I'm able to get 4.6. We continue to move price. Bid continues to stack up there. We get a little bit higher. It kind of peters out just under 4.9 here. Do we still have 4.9, I think? Maybe not. And then we pull back a little bit more. And it was just that thought that runs through my head of, okay, you could risk 45. 45 is a more rounder number, and should have been doing this far in advance of when I actually got the entry. But it was just the opportunity that was coming to the upside with this new break above 45 was just so fresh and ripe. I didn't do my due diligence of setting the stop levels and profit target levels beforehand, but I did catch on very quickly after I was in the trade. But still kind of just dealing with, do I risk my entry of 4.6 if it pulls back? Because I'm thinking, I'm just looking for the quick spike to sell into. If it doesn't have the strength to just go immediately from there, then I know too that, gosh, I just don't want to be a part of it. I don't know if it will have the legs to be able to push that hard that quick, especially as the morning session draws on, the less volatility and volume it can gain in order to do that. So it's got to be, we got to be acting within the first 15, 20, 30 minutes here, maximum, to that regard. So I ended up picking 46 as a risk level. It starts to smack away the bid, continue to drop off. We see 46 start to chip away. I take off my trade from there. It goes a little bit further, but finds a base. Bounces pretty much perfectly off of that. Still maintaining 45. I would not have been stopped out if I kept my risk level at 45, similar to what I did with that 46, of not putting a stop in, but just mentally watching that bid to see if it was actually eroding away. New high a day being put in from there, pull back, or that was the 5 cent mark. So I would have been selling into that perfectly for a beautiful little trade there. Pulls back a little bit more, then it has this just crazy rip, insane move to 6.3. Very, very sweet. And it looks pure and beautiful and sweet, but like if you're looking at it this time, it's like, okay, yeah, it puts in a little bottom here, new high day test, but it's not like it's this awesome, clean, beautiful breakout. It's still kind of this candle even too is just a very tiny, small bodied candle for how it was trading. It's not like price was moving away quickly and it was escaping, but you can see as we progress on a minute by minute basis, those candles start to build. Volume gains a little bit, and then top gets to be put in there. Double top, pretty much perfection wise at that point, and then a hard fall off. I think everybody else in the Millionaire chat room was pretty much out of trying to focus on everybody else at this point, but people trying to trade this as a panic dip buy when it is not a panic dip buy whatsoever. And Chris texts that all the time too, but we're on the same page of all of that to say that this is not, it's still green on a day by these points of, yeah, it looks like a hard sell off here, hovers around VWAP and then falls off once again, but trying to buy this. The stock is still green. It's why do you think this is a panic? Nobody's panicking. Anybody panicking would just be potential longs if they're just too stupid who bought in this consolidation anyway. That's just funny to see people consistently doing that. So position size was kind of right around where I wanted to keep this for what I feel my win rate is and my confidence is in my trading as of right now, right around that $500 mark. So I kept it there for just a break even, now just paying OTC commission fees on that trade for what should have been a nice little 10% mover there. Good to see that the thesis, though, was correct, even though it was a little bit too high up, like I mentioned, for what potential continuation morning spike play could be. Realizing the market environment, adjusting to that, and still being willing to take the trade as the level 2 and bid support showed the potential trade there. Taking and hopping on that was certainly an A rating in my book for that. I mentioned all that I wanted to see. Great liquidity on this one. I want to look at the dollar volume today. $12 million volume. Yeah, very nice liquidity all around for that one. That was it. Let's go on to METX for now. Next trade in the book. Again, this was another one of those big percentage movers on the day. Started this run up Monday. I forget if that was a news catalyst. Specifically from that day, had a news catalyst today for a strategic partnership for blah, 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 with blockchain cryptocurrency mining business. They released that at 8:30 a.m. this morning, which was the cause for this news catalyst, or this spike here in the pre, and wedging very well, very wide kind of wedge that you can see here going into perfect market open, and then you get the dump right away out of the gate. So just like everything else, kind of just tanking. Hard day on DWAC as well too, that I'll get in a little bit. But I had OCGN on my screen as well, and OCGN had a similar type of thing that I was factoring into this one. Not that they're the same chart in any way, that there any amount of sympathy between each other, but kind of just going off of the feel of what the market was. That I'll mention OCGN in here in a little bit, but that we get this, you get the dump out of the gate, but pretty much perfect V recovery within few minutes, a very short time frame right after. And the OCGN was a very hard spike to the upside as well too, after that dump from the open. So keeping that in mind with METX, that, you know, they're not related whatsoever, but just the feel of what these things could potentially do, and saying, as the trade starts to develop, we get closer to a 9:45 time frame for a dip and rip. This thing had an incredibly sharp V. We get here to a sell-off, hard red candle that was panicking a long try to play this one. Maybe they were playing it as a dip and rip attempt, and then immediate reversal to the upside that just pretty much gets right back to VWAP in a hurry. So then at that point, I'm thinking, you know, it's not really like, it's so quick that it's not just catching shorts off balance, that, oh, okay, that just gives me another opportunity to get more shares short. For how quick this opportunity was, that it reclaimed back to VWAP, you know, I'm not panicking that longs are building into this. Because normally where my entry would be here for what size I took, that's where I would want to be selling as a dip and ripper. If I was trading this as a dip and rip, looking to find the bottom, trading this little perk back to VWAP, that's normally what we got. That was the best of the move in these slower months preceding this October month. But now too, we're getting in the market shift once again, like I mentioned, similar type of thing that I was thinking with AIAD, that, okay, this is normally not where I'd be taking a trade, or where I would be pushing to say, hey, I think there could be plenty more opportunity to the upside even after here. But I think that's what everybody else is thinking as well too. So now having to adjust to that little thesis to say, I think there is more room after this. Buying pretty much after 6 green candles is not the best idea, factoring in the same thing, that, okay, you think it's going to continue more green candles after it just put in 6 green candles. Let's take a little bit of a consideration after that, but the move happened. The move happened. This was what the move I was looking for, these candles right here. And it was just, for some reason, I just kind of arbitrarily picked, of course I was trading this on the tick chart as well to get a clear picture for where the volume was going, but set my risk level, got pretty much top tick for the entry as it was breaking to the upside of this little 5-7 area. Top tick there, started to pull back, and for whatever reason, I set my risk around that 55.5 mark. That is, it was breaking this little relative low here before it bounced in that poke of my entry, if that's a phrase. Stopped out pretty much perfectly there. Watched it fail to break out to a new relative high of day here on that second attempt, but still put in that bottom again here at 55. Then the move comes from there, and that was an awesome beyond 10% move at that point. For continue to go on the rest of that little morning session, and yeah, for whatever it did the rest of the afternoon, didn't really care. But the thesis was correct, that this potential trade could come out, and the move was there within the time frame that I would have been trading it. It was just risk level was too short, too shallow, didn't allow the trade to breathe enough. It was kind of chasing a little bit for what that entry was of, okay, even if it does go from there, how much strength can it have after 6 green candles already? Of course, famous last words again, if you're trying to short it, to go to the reverse side of that. But just kind of taking a step back and allowing the trade to breathe a little bit more, I think is what it would have been best for how to handle this trade in reflection on that. So this one also reminds me as well, for the stop order, of I'm pretty much filling at the exact bottom with all of my stop orders. I think this was the only stop order I had today on these 2 trades. And again, here I am. Well, let's go. Here I am again with another stop order that I have right at 555. And I get filled at the bottom, whatever the next candle is. I'm not even filling in the next candle after that, of course, because I'm so far behind in the stack of other orders that are in front of me. And it's, again, too, of You know, I'm not looking to get a huge advantage on that, but I'm always screwing myself over by putting stops in. I'm getting filled at the bottom of these candles, and I'm getting filled far later than everybody else is who is potentially before me, in that they have their orders way ahead of me in advance before any of these technical levels are broken. Why do I continue to keep using these stops? I got to learn my lesson at some point. I want to stay safe, and I continue throwing out these dangerous ideas of, well, I just don't want to put in stops ever. I'm going to wait for the perk back to sell into strength. But it's like, even if I was waiting and sold into potentially this little reclaim to VWAP here, does that change the thesis of the trade? Do I then think at this point still of, oh, well, am I still looking for a pop to sell into, or am I just now, the trade still, I think, is on? It's so many different factors, and I think it's so different with each and every single trade itself too. But just how many times I've done that stupidly of getting bottom filled with a stop order, I just got to stop doing it. So I think as of right now, I'm going to take away the stops. They're screwing me over, and I think I can feel myself better. And I think it's going to push me to be less emotional in how I see the trade, and not just so reliant on, oh, put the stop order and just sit back, relax. If it goes there, it goes there. But actually focusing on, hey, is the bid being supported here? Is, the ask overbearing? Are we slapping the bid on the level 2? Different things like that are obviously going to propel me further in my trading career, the ability to recognize that style of trading for these charts. That was METX. That's all I want to mention. Let's go to DWAC now. Another hard day. Looks like 30% in the red again. We get this little wedge out of the gate. Similar type of thing that just plays out again and again. It's not like this is a magic formula, but seems to happen over and over, that these repeatable little candle chart patterns are very predictable. And I was telling myself, as it's developing that and I'm seeing that little pattern play out, hey, whatever side it goes to, I could be very willing to take that side for the day. And obviously, if it was broken to the upside, going long would be far easier than going short, and me thinking, okay, now I got to waste a day trade on this. How many shares am I going to reserve? Because I have to reserve 100 shares to trade zero. Am I willing to pay that locate fee? What is the locate fee? Am I willing to keep blah, 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 whatever? Obviously, very nice opportunity to the downside, even within the morning session there too, and faded off even harder in the afternoon for that one. On my just little data collection that I do for this one, and the average dollar volume per trade, funny stats that I was taking today too. So for that first day, we go to the breakdown here on the daily. Let's remove these first, just so we get a little cleaner view. This first run-up day, we have an average of $4,300 per trade for the 21st. So on this day here, the first run-up, it was just absolutely squeezing shorts. That first day too, which was funny, we were over, I didn't realize, but it was over 100% detached from where VWAP was at one point. We're tapping 50, and it's tapping 52 even, and it's still lingering under $22 at that point for VWAP, which is just crazy and ludicrous to see. I don't know if I've ever really factored that in before. I was looking at WTRH, which I can also mention in a little bit, but that was just crazy. So anyway, for that first day, $4,300 average dollar volume per trade. The second day here, the crazy ludicrous $175 day, average of $6,000, I think just a little over, that we averaged per trade on that day too, with obviously it doesn't even look like the same amount of shares traded, not even the amount of volume traded on that first day. The 25th averaged $5,500 per trade. Again, all these red days here. And now today too, we're just averaging just under 4K per trade for where we're at today too, with decreasing volume. But it was funny too, because I was doing this data just a little bit during market hours, and at one point it was over. I think I was taking this before we had this dip into the close here, but it was over. The average dollar volume per trade was over 11K at one point. And I'm guessing that's before this little sell-off here, where more potential trades or retail traders were coming in. The only thesis that I can think, if that 11K was right, or for some reason that now it kind of averaged itself out to go more true to what the trend was, that we're just decreasing with the average size per trade with each of these days as we're in this potential downside of this DWAC move, if that was correct, and if this, little correction didn't happen here right before the close, and if it was sitting that average of 11K per trade, I'm just throwing out all these different hypotheses of, okay, is it now that the retail trader is gone and that there's less small accounts coming into this one to just consistently chop away and put in more trades, put in smaller dollar volumes, put in smaller position size, which would obviously decrease the average size of the position size. Whereas today too, it's the big money hands that are just taking their one trade to cover their $200,000 position. And that's why it's averaging. We're getting far less trades on the day compared to what the dollar volume actually is. Just different factors, kind of brainstorming and spitballing of reasoning why and how we can apply this to potential big movers in the future. But obviously it did, as we get to the close here, it did kind of average itself back out to that trend line that we peaked on that big day, the 6K day on the 22nd. And now we're just kind of gradually breaking that down here with each and every successive day too. Obviously still on watch. We got to continue to watch these big movers to see if any amount of support wants to come back in, because then it can get pretty squirrely going into, especially going into more of the crazy winter months. OCGN I wanted to mention, crazy mover in that after hours. Pre-market, pretty wide range, holding mainly under VWAP here. Chris had a nice thesis on this one today too. Had this little dip out of the open, trying to buy a little dip by there, get a perfect reclaim, like I mentioned on METX, same type of thing. Reclaim to VWAP, little stutter step here again. Nice place to enter on a trade thesis. Not the most huge percentage move, but very probable and very nice little block there to the upside within 2, 3, 4 minutes as a trade. Holds VWAP continually well, like puts in a little line if you want to even call it that. And just hard for me to like grasp though, because it was just too easy to spot. These very nice bottom wicks on those candles, just continually chewing away up this little mountain. Little perk, then reject and saying, no, we're holding this trend right now. You're not going any higher. But you're just continuing to build. Actually, it gets to a new high of day there. It sells off again, pulls back in that same line, continues on there. Then you get the final huge sell-off. Dump here into a halt. Huge volume in that 1 minute candle. Gaps down a little bit lower, but then kind of a dip buy opportunity. Just little you want to call them 3 or 4? Yeah, there's 3 little dip buy opportunities here that provided a very nice little return on each of them, if you want to call it that. If you were not being greedy, if you were selling where it was saying to sell, obviously right at VWAP was a good point to sell it. I was not going to put myself anywhere near these style of trades, but just interesting to see that, especially after all these halts. Pretty nice little opportunity as a dip buy. And again, the same thing with AIAD, that it's not a panic. It's still green from the previous trading day close. It's not like obviously any longs today are getting squirrely on this one, but you can't call it a panic. Don't call it a comeback, baby. That was OCGN. Yeah, that's all I want to mention, just as a technical chart kind of breakdown. Nothing hard thesis on me for that one as of right now. WTRH finally had its freaking day. Oh my gosh. Art of War nailing this one pretty well. I think Mark Crook took another few shares opportunities on this one. This one has just been killing me. Have my number, but today was that big volume day, big percentage push to the upside. I didn't really think it had the legs. I'm watching it around as it's hovering just under this 1.8 point. And I think even Art of War, as he's holding from a 1.4, 1.59, I think his average of what he was holding. He was even selling into this 1.8 because it was just like, oh, here we go again. The characteristic of this one, it's looking so nice technically and building well with VWAP, with higher lows coming into, especially into the close here. It's just failing to really break out, continue with volume. It's not doing what we want to see. So he was selling a big portion of his position here around this area. But then the final move comes in kind of uncharacteristically of what this stock likes to do, just continually putting in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 consecutive green candles. Call it 10 green candles if you want to call that doji a little green as well, but pretty insane. And then after hours gets to pull another huge push to a new high of day, tapping 2.4. It was at this point too that I'm just kind of thinking, man, referencing to DWAC, what I mentioned with how far away it was from VWAP, we're almost 30% away from VWAP as it's outstretching here, which is very, very far for how this thing has been trading the past few days. And of course, you can say that with all of these gappers, especially the DWACs of like, oh, it's never traded that far away, that far detached from VWAP. Definitely got to short it. This is the top being put in. And how much further could it go? Famous last words. So thinking as we're getting this little peak here, the final push, the red candles being finally put in, just for funsies, up looking up locates and pretty relatively inexpensive locates through trade zero to potentially getting short. So I was pretty close at this point to say, you know, maybe I'm just looking for a little bit of a pullback. All I need is, you know, 2.2 to get to that $2 mark is really all the move I need. But just kind of hesitated, even still, as it was, you know, top wick candle here, but it's still putting in higher lows, so just kind of sketchy. So around this time frame, I'm like, I just don't really want to be a part of it. And of course, it starts to continue to build with volume. New high a day push, which would or would not have been my risk if I was getting short this thing, because it was up a decent amount of ways. Then you get to 225, and that's the final push, or that's the final top for the market hours at least. And then nice little trading block here to the downside if I wanted to be a part of it. But I did not want to be a part of it for WTH, just for a little quick scalpy short in that regard. But man, this could be another one of those prog movers that it just stair steps and puts in huge, crazy percentage move one day, consolidates the next few days, just chops around, does whatever. Then you get another one of those days. How many times can it rinse and repeat like that? The world may never know. But we'll certainly keep it on watch to find out if we can. That was all the tickers I wanted to mention. Long video today. I was watching, of course I'm watching GNUS. I'm watching GNUS pretty hard for a third day surge style play. It's put in pretty insane volume, holding decently well here in the after hours, or even in the afternoon session here. It was looking like it was going to get testy here, kind of coming out of that lunch hour. But this $2 whole level area is going to be key. I thought the spike out of the closing bell was going to produce a little bit more, but 195 produced a little bit of resistance. There was a huge seller kind of showing themselves at 195, so we'll see if it has the legs to break through that at any point here in the after hours. I may swing this with a small position size going into tomorrow, just because that similar thing on prog for how that move on, and PBTS as well, for how those guys move, that maybe we're seeing more of those overnight plays start to come into fruition a little bit more. Same thing with XELA. XELA is not looking the most hot. It was under VWAP, but still holding 1.9-ish, and again, $2 level. Funny to see that both of those are kind of key areas on both of these tickers. I was watching REDU, kind of same thing, third day surge style play, but it's earnings looks like. I'm glad I saw that little dot there. So yeah, just forget about it. Don't even want to be a part of it. VISL, I think, as well, was another mover, but not the best. Again, choppy price action today. Hard sell-off on that first day as well, too. So, yeah, will it have a third day surge play? It's going to need a lot of volume to reclaim, overcome what had happened on today and, of course, on the backside of that move on the first day. That is all I had as of right now. Man, I can that's 32 minutes of talking. Can just fly by before you even know it. That's trading. Getting back to the study books, getting back to the basics of it all, learning to continually. It's funny how much you have to adapt to be able to adapt. And learning how to change is a funny psyche to think about, that you have to learn how to change and be able to adapt and be willing to be loose and free and unbound by any paradigm way of thinking. That you just have to be rigid in your fundamentals of who you are and cutting losses quickly and sticking to your trading plan, but also loose enough to understand what the market is saying. Hey, you can be a little looser here. You can be a little bit tighter here. All those different factors, man. This is some game, I tell you what, but I'm excited every single day for it. I thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.